To live is Christ, and to die is gain. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? What does what does it profit a man if he lives his whole life and loses Christ? Is that life? Is that life when Christ is denied all the time? Is it life? There is only one way of life, and that one way of life is to take up the cross and to follow Jesus and to follow Him to the execution stake. What does it mean for God to die on the cross? Is that not the most shocking thing that ever happened in the history of the world, in the history of the universe? That God had to become not an angel, but God had to become human. And human beings are not the greatest of all creatures. We are the lowest of all creatures in a certain sense because we felt so bad. And then we created societies. We invented the cross. We invented torture chambers. We invented instruments of pain and untold suffering. And what does it mean for God to come into our world, into our lives, and not sit on a throne safe from the horrid everydayness of life, but to go to the worst of places, to go to the cross, and then to tell us that this is where we can find Him. We find God not in the places, in the most joyful places or in the most happiest places. We find God in the most real places, and to be real with ourselves, to be real with the ones whom we love, to be real with life is to be real, and to be real with God, and God to be real with us. He reaches us through the cross, through the place, to the most despicable place where He lies tortured, naked, spat upon, bloodied, and vile, putrid flesh hanging up there, with carrion birds hovering over Him. And we feel the stench of God on the cross. We want to avoid the stench of man on the cross. But then, if we are to be saved, if we are to find ourselves and not lose ourselves, the greatest treasure is ourselves. And if we have to find ourselves and we have to find our truth, we have to find God on the cross. Him who did not spare His Son, but gave Him for us all, will He not, along with Him, also give us all things? He gave Himself up. He gave Himself up not just as a token, but He gave everything of Himself. Everything of Himself. And He gave it in the most brutal way possible, that paradoxically everything we know about God just comes to an end on the cross. Because on the cross we see a God who is not a God. We see a God who cannot save Himself. We see a God who can do nothing but love. What can He do but love? If He does everything, He does it through love. Everything is love. Every action of God is done through His love. And this is the greatest of His actions, it's the greatest of His revelation. The truth is that the truth about Christianity is that God is not found in a holy book. God is not found in the Bible. God is not found in, you know, the beauty of art. God is found the most in the most brutal parts of everyday existence, that there is nothing outside the scope of God, because the cross is the end. It's where man breaks. It's where we break. It's our breaking point. It's our limit. Because what does it mean to break apart? What does it mean to fall apart? I've fallen apart. I've fallen apart many times. I've fallen apart to a point where I didn't see that my life was worth living. I've fallen apart to a point where the only hope I had is annihilation, is suicide. I've fallen apart. I've fallen apart. I've fallen apart because of my own selfishness, because of my own commitment to nothingness, to my own commitment to not love, to not be kind, to not forgive myself. I've fallen apart because I perceive things that happen to me as something that shouldn't have happened to me, because I don't want to go to the cross. Anything but the cross. Anything but the cross. Take me anywhere. Take me anywhere but the cross. I want society. I want people to love me. I want people to acknowledge me. I want me to look at myself in the mirror and say that this is a respectable human being. I don't want to look at myself in the mirror and say this is a man falling apart. But then the truth is, this is a man falling apart. This is a man who's fallen apart. And in me falling apart, I find life. I find that I can forgive the unforgivable in myself. I can forgive the unforgivable in other people. That I can love the unlovable in myself. That I can love the unlovable in another person. That the strength that I gained by breaking apart and not perishing. I'm broken apart, but I will not, and highlighted, I'm broken apart, but I'm not destroyed forever. I'm broken apart, but then there is hope that I can stand up again. But when I stand up this time, I don't stand up trusting in the world, but I stand up trusting that there is this power that is beyond the powers that I can ever imagine. I'm not afraid of the cross. I don't have to be afraid of the cross. In fact, I walked through the cross. I walk through the cross, I find a strength, I find a wisdom, I find life, I find joy, I find hope. We invented crosses, we invented execution stakes. But when he was found there on the execution stake, it becomes the tree of life. The tree of life that we lost in paradise is the cross of Christ. And the fruit of the tree of life that we were forbidden to eat is the Eucharist, that we may receive him, the King of all, the fruit of life, the fruit of immortality in ourselves is what the cross of Christ is. He turned the barren tree of death into the tree of life, and a tree of knowledge, that we possess the knowledge to torture, the knowledge to control, the knowledge to kind of make life sanitary, is destroyed. We don't have to live a sanitary life anymore. We don't have to live safe lives anymore. We don't have to be afraid of anything, because we can live free, because God is found on the cross. God is not found. in religions. God is not found in holy books, not in the Bible. God is not found in our constructs, in science, in knowledge, in literature. You don't have to be wise. You don't have to be successful. You don't have to be anything. And still find God. And you are greater. The least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than the greatest on earth, because God was found on the cross. Eventually, God was found where we don't dare look for God. We don't want to look for God in those places. When we go to those places, we'd rather feel abandoned. When we go to those places, we'd rather feel hopeless than to ever dare to say that God is here, fully present in the brokenness of life. What does it mean for God to be crucified? Isn't that a shocker? Isn't that like the craziest thing that could ever happen, has ever had, that could ever be conceived, has happened? That nobody is lost. No matter how broken you are, you can never be lost. Because paradoxically, because you're broken, you can never be lost. If you're not broken, you're already lost, because you don't know the one who was broken for you. But if you're broken, the one who was broken for you is there all the time with you, and you're going to stand up, even if everything goes wrong. Even if I was not alive today, even if I killed myself, I would not lost. I would never be lost. I would never be lost, because there is someone out there who finds me there, who I meet at the end of the road, no matter what that road is, no matter how broken that road is, no matter how fucked up that road is, I'm going to meet him there. That is love at its greatest. Love at its greatest. Why did God have to be on the cross? Why didn't God? Why is it God at his most godliest on the cross, and not in the law, not in the prophets, but on the cross? And that's something that I will never understand. But it's a gift that is always given to me, never taken away from me. That I that is a part of my life. To live is Christ, and to die is gain. Amen.